Welcome to the Newfoundland Lens. We are here on episode number 6, and as myself, Michael Windsor, and of course, co-host Cory Babstock here as well.
Morning.
Today, we're going to talk about the lighthouses in Newfoundland. We have so many here, and there's so many great photography uh, opportunities. So, just a little brief first with the lighthouses. We actually have 55 lighthouses here in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and 23 actually is still manned. So it has some people actually still there for anyone that's in distress that there's actually a person on site. But besides the functional thing about the lighthouses, we also have great photo opportunities, and especially when the icebergs and stuff show up, and during sunset or sunrises is great as well. So what myself and Corey is going to do there today is that we have a list of the more photogenic lighthouses that we kind of find, and we'll just talk about each one and sunrise, sunset, and opportunities and past things that we have done there. So Corey, you could lead a way with your Cape Spear Lighthouse. What do you got to say about that one?
Well, it's 2 lighthouses actually at Cape Fear because you have that old one there from the 1800s, which is, the old style square one that we see around a lot, and you have the new style tr what you think a child would draw a lighthouse as out there as well. So it's kinda cool. Cape Fear, of course, we talked about it before being fantastic for sunrises, and, it's nice to have both of those lighthouses out there to play with in that lighting. Particularly, I like the old lighthouse. You're quite familiar with it as well. There's a path between the fence and the lighthouse where you can capture the new lighthouse shining down there, and if the sun is coming up, you get the reflection in the windows, and everything makes for a great shot. Um, it's probably one of the busier lighthouses on the island. When you go out there, if you go out there in the daytime, the parking lot is quite often full, and it's full for a reason. It's a beautiful spot, lots of different vantage points to take photos of. Um, there's lots of opportunities, both sunrise and sunset out there, and what I like about Cape Spear is that even when it's foggy, especially sometimes when it's lightly foggy and the lights are operational and you can get that cone of light through the fog and the mist, and you get that nice diffuse color from the fog. Yeah, fantastic spot. I usually try to go out there every time I'm in St. John's, and we certainly every time we have a tour, we make a point of going out there. So, yeah, nope, top notch location.
Like you were saying, we do a lot of sunrises out there for Cape Spear, and just seeing the sun come like up out of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
It's quite an amazing spot. I know we talked about that place last year as one of my favorite places as a landscape picture, but the lighthouses just kind of adds that Newfoundland historic kind of fisherman kind of story to it as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was thinking about it before we went to the podcast and thinking about lighthouses and Mhm. And the landscapes we have, and one of the things that make, the Newfoundland landscape so attractive is the rugged coastline, right? But with that comes a danger to ships and everything, and that's why we have so many of these lighthouses on the coast is because of the beautiful rugged coastline and the dangers that come with it. But, it's nice to get a photo of just a coastline with all those rocks, but it's nice to have a photo with a focal point as well. And, icebergs are transient. They may be there, they may not be, although they're a great focal point when they are. The lighthouses are there, and, it makes for a great focal point or a great, backdrop for those landscapes. So, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. About 3 or 4 years ago, I had a fortunate. I worked with Canadian Geographic and did a story with them on the Canadian Coast Guard. And of
Mhm.
course, lighthouses is kind of built into the Coast Guard and all that stuff as well. So we visited a couple of lighthouses and went down to Cape St. Mary's, which is on the list. But just seeing like how valuable the lighthouse still is and the operators that is there, it's kind of surprising because everyone now got all kinds of GPS's coordinates, could even tell you every little rock and every cove and how to
Mhm.
avoid it. And even the fishermen, like I still talk to a lot of fishermen around here. And when they're coming in on a foggy day or whatever it is, and the people that's driving the boat, the captain and stuff, is that like when they see the lighthouse, they know they're home. And
Right.
that's the still feeling that
Yes,
no
do
matter
you
back in the 1900s or if it's today, they still got that feeling, right?
what's we should probably warn people too, if you go out at the, lighthouses when they're in operation, a lot of these most of them, I would imagine, if not all of them, have foghorns as well, and those things you can They can be quite loud, vibrate every bone in your body when you're next to them.
Yeah, for sure. And I also found when I was doing that as well, that every horn on every lighthouse has actually got a different tune or different kind of rhythm to it, so
Mhm.
you'll know which one actually it is and where they are, which is
Yeah,
pretty
it's a lot
cool.
of there's a lot more to it than just a building with a light on top of it, right? When you
Yeah.
start digging into it.
And he also, like, when it comes to how far distance it goes and what range it covers and, like, everything, you think it's just, just from blowing a horn, but there's a lot more technical things to it than that.
A lot of science behind it, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is for sure.
And they've come a long way. I remember the Bonavista Lighthouse and a lot of the historic lighthouses have an opportunity for you to go inside and to see the inner workings of them. I know the Bonavista one's one of them, and they were explaining how the light would rotate via counterweight. They pull a rope and then counterweight would work back up, would spin the light, but it would take I think they said 3 hours. I might be off a little bit there, but it was a significant amount of time. But somebody every 3 hours had to go up and pull the counterweight again in order to keep the lighthouse operating. So the lighthouse keeper and his sons would, alternate back and forth so they get a little bit more sleep, right? Pretty cool.
Like
Pretty cool part of
like,
history.
like you say, like, the history of the lighthouses, because even the one in Kate's Spear, which is actually the first lighthouse in Newfoundland and Labrador, well, Newfoundland for sure. And back then, you used to use well oil and mirrors and all that stuff for light,
Mhm.
so it come a quite a distance when it
Yeah,
comes to back to then, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're fun to photograph.
And especially ones in Kate Spear, I find when the sun is rising, like you said, at sunrise or at sunset, both times are great, uh, because in the evening, you get that nice light coming down the other way,
Right.
on, like, call it the backsides of the lighthouses sort of thing, and just to see the colors and orange glow on the buildings are pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. So Cape Spear is good. What else we got? Cape Race. I was in there a few times and got some pictures of that one. I got it in the nighttime with the light coming around. Down there is kind of a cool picture because you could get closer down on the rocks, but don't get too close to the ocean, as we always
Right.
say.
Mm.
But if you know where you're going, you can stay quite a distance and you still get a lot of the rugged rocks in the foreground of the lighthouse, which kind of adds to a nice picture as well.
And Cape Race is well known for a historic event as well, eh? Well, the very first signal from the Titanic when it hit the iceberg, was
Yeah,
that picked up at Cape Race? It was, right?
that's Cape Race, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they
It
even
was
got a down in the lighthouse's little museum, they got some artifacts and stuff down there with the Titanic too.
I was down there for the first time this past summer. We were staying down in Portugal Cove South there and, run to Cape Race, and yes, you're right, you if you know what you're doing, I didn't know what I was doing to get down on the rock, so I didn't even push it. Took some
Yeah,
photos, from further up, but still got some nice stuff, not as nice as probably the next lighthouse, we can talk about that's in that region is the Fairyland Lighthouse, which I visited that same trip as well. That's a very nice location there.
yeah. Yeah, and the only last thing I wanna say about the Cape Race is that there's snowy owls down there sometimes in that area. Like, it's quite a
Right.
distance to get out to the point, and there's really nothing to see on the way out there, but sometimes if you're lucky, there's usually some snowy owls that may be around.
My, I have to go start the car.
Yeah.
They're a bucket list. I've not yet photographed snowy owls, and it's a big bucket list item for me to check off my list. Because different topic, I know birds of prey are, very a
Oh,
favorite.
s
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But it's funny because the last time I saw it, the other time I actually took a picture of a snowy owl was at Cape Spear a few, I think it was, like, probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a couple
Yeah, they
that
show up
showed up.
in locations rarely, but yeah,
Yeah.
not as common here as they are in Lake Ontario, certainly.
Learn how to capture the best images and develop your camera skills with workshops held in Newfoundland and Labrador's most inspiring natural landscapes. Newfoundland Photo Tours. Book your workshop today.
Yeah. But, yeah, like you said, the Fairyland the Fairyland, lighthouse,
Yeah.
that is real that's a real nice one.
That whole area, like Fairyland, from a historic property standpoint, it's a, great spot to visit anyway. But from a photography standpoint, that lighthouse is pretty special. I've only gotten out there twice now and since I've started into photography, and every time I'm in the region, I say, "Geez, I gotta go out there again because I've not yet gotten a showstopper. Gotten some good photos, but I've seen some showstoppers taken out there. Yeah, it's a beautiful location.
Yeah, you could get the Milky Way and stuff in the nighttime area on that one. So you get
Yeah.
down low and you get the Milky Way up over it, which is pretty cool. I don't think I had that shot yet, which maybe I should try to get at some point, but that means getting up like 3 AM and those like pillow is kinda inviting sometimes.
Yeah, I know, right? But that's it. You suffer for those good shots.
Yeah. But yeah, and they do offer it's not officially a lighthouse anymore, it's more of a historic place, but it kinda well, I guess used to be, but it's not an actual functional one.
Mhm.
But they do offer picnics and stuff that you go up there and in the summer and get a picnic lunch and just sit around the lighthouse, which is really awesome for
Yeah,
tourists and stuff.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. Or when you're taking pictures, you want a bite to eat, there is right next door.
Perfect. Uh, about St. Mary's. There's that lighthouse down there.
Yeah.
That's the one where the foghorn I don't know if it's louder down there than anywhere else, but it seems to me like when that foghorn sounds down there, it's insanely loud, like very, very loud.
Yeah, it's a loud one for sure.
Yeah,
Um, and one of the cool things about that lighthouse is that if you go out and you take a picture of the northern gannets in the nighttime, so if you go out during the summer, it's like around 12, 1 o'clock AM. Well, of course, you gotta know where you're going because it's dark and there's cliffs that
right.
you follow you're not coming back from. But
Exactly.
if you're with us during our photography tours, we'll make sure you're safe, of course. But anyway, when you go down there, the lighthouse actually the light spins around, like, probably, once every 10 seconds or whatever it is. So if you do a long exposure, you can get the northern gannets in the foreground, you get the Milky Way, and the light from the lighthouse actually does the light painting on the birds itself, which is pretty
Very
cool.
cool.
It's a
Yep,
really cool shot.
write that one down for the for the old bucket list.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
owe a picture of it. Maybe I'll add it to the YouTube video as
Yeah,
well.
no, I don't think I've seen that one either. Yes, that would be yes, do that,
It's it's really
upload it.
cool.
Yep,
But, yeah, that's a cool lighthouse, and we was actually up on the top of that one, and I think a couple of years ago, with one of the storms we had, there was so much wind that was coming in that it kinda tore up the rocks and stuff and broke some of the glasses, but now they do have it fixed again in the lighthouse, but some of the glass and stuff got shattered and things like that.
yes, rough spot, especially in the winter. I mean, that's yeah, that takes a pounding, that coast.
Yeah. So another one you probably got more familiar with than I do is the one in Twillingate. I was out there and I got some pictures of it, but I know
Yep.
you spend quite a bit of time out that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, the Long Point Lighthouse, really nice, photographic opportunity there. I really like sunrise and sunset there because the sun rises on one side of the lighthouse and sets on the other, so, you're spoiled for choice as to when to go for your best lighting, and it's a nice old structure too. It's probably one of the older ones around. It's got some real character to it, nice red and white, so you got that pop. And I really like footage of that lighthouse. It's one of my favorite places for to do some drone photography because it's you can catch Twillingate in the background, and if there's icebergs around, especially, you get an iceberg, in the bay, Twillingate, and the lighthouse. Yeah, it's a really, really special spot. And again, I can't stress enough, even without the drone during iceberg season, it's you can quite often catch an iceberg and the lighthouse in the same shot. Yeah, absolutely love that spot.
When I was out there, I used a drone, and the thing is, where the cliffs are so high there next to the lighthouse, you can't
Yeah,
really walk in front of it too much because just the way that just the landscape is.
it's
So I'm
it's a
shooting
long way
straight
down. Yeah,
forward, a long way there, unless you know how to fly.
yeah,
But yeah, drone shots from there is really cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I must say,
yeah.
and the
A lot of
scenery up there on top, looking out over, you can see looks like forever.
It's a great spot for whale watching too. We get a lot of whale activity up there, and there's a lot of fishermen that fish just off the Flying Point there, and you get the big swarms of gulls chasing the boats, and yeah, it's a great spot. Lots of different
Mhm.
things to take in up there, and that's one of the nice things I like about a lot of these lighthouses is that if you go out there and the lighthouse shot isn't there, there's always opportunity for other shots. So it's not like you're going for that one thing and one thing only. There's a lot of
Yeah.
other opportunities for shots there, seasonally, depending on what's around. So,
I saw some people post online, they had some pictures with the northern lights there over the 20 Gate Lighthouse too, which is pretty cool.
Well, this past season, there's been a lot of, northern lights, and you're right, somebody posted, can't remember her name. There was a photographer from the area out there that did post that northern lights with the Lamp Lighthouse, and she did some light painting and the lighthouse at the same time, and it was a nice shot.
Mm. Oh, just kinda going back to Cape Spear, I was gonna mention, I kinda forgot, is
Yeah,
that this year, with all the northern lights, like I said, it was the first time we had, like, really a good northern lights display this far south, and so at 3 a.m. in the morning, I was out at Cape Spear, and I got some really, like, purples and pinks up in the sky of the northern lights. It was Yeah, it was one of those times, I don't know I'll probably ever see it again, but for that one night, it was crazy awesome.
and what did you do there, Michael? Did you do any light painting on the, lighthouses or anything, or are you just doing some long exposure stuff, or
The long exposure, but the thing is, I try to get reflection, and I didn't even edit that picture yet,
Yeah,
unfortunately, time. But even I try to get the reflection of the lighthouse and the northern lights in the pond, that little pond that's there,
yeah,
that's all lit up. So in order for me to get in the right position, I only had my rails on, which is kind of, sneakers kind of thing.
yeah,
So I actually stood in the middle of the pond, got my feet sag at 3 o'clock in the morning,
dedicated.
and cold, and got down low and stuff, but I got a shot out of it, and I had to drop
Good.
my boots out after, or my sneakers, but
Oh, man,
yeah, yeah, some things you do
that's
as photographers for silly stuff.
you're always trying out your boots.
Yeah. Yeah, so back to Twillingate, like I said, that's an awesome lighthouse, one of the most picturesque ones for sure.
Yeah,
So another one that's probably one of my favorites for sure is the one that's in Bonavista.
yeah.
You was out there quite a bit often for that one too, eh?
Well, it's my backyard, right? So it's only an
Mhm.
hour's drive for me, and I'm down there. And yeah, it's a very special lighthouse. There's lots of opportunities for some great shots, sunrise, sunset again. Whales are around, icebergs. There's foxes that are hanging around down there. There's that one little puddle in the trailway there, the little road by the red shack that if you ever fell in that puddle, there's gonna be a revolt amongst photographers because we all use it, right? When the puddle is full for the reflection shot of the lighthouse, and it's what I like take when I take people out on tours. One of the shots I'm always you're kinda like praying for good weather, but I'm kinda praying that there's enough rain that there's water in that that bottle
Yeah,
because it's a great shot to get, right?
yeah,
Uh and you got the little what we call the most photographed red shack on the face of the earth. That little red shack, the generator shack down there, and the pond next to that is good for reflections too. I don't know if you've ever if you go on the rocks on the other side facing over towards the lighthouse, you get down, you can get the lighthouse reflecting in that pond that's in front of the red shack as well, and that's a pretty interesting shot. Even in
okay,
the
yeah,
winter when it's icy, you get some reflections of the iceberg, the lighthouse in the ice that's in the pond, if the wind's
okay.
got it all cleared off. And God knows it's windy enough out there that the ice is often cleared
Mm.
right off, so,
Oh, yes, if it was anywhere windy, it's definitely windier down that point in Cape Bonavista. Really,
yeah,
really,
different spot in the winter. I mean, it's we spend a lot of our time out there in the summer, but you go out there now this time of the year, and it's a completely different environment.
kinda makes me wanna leave and go out there now and take some pictures in the winter.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and and so you should. It's,
Yeah,
again, a totally different vibe, a different feel. Even the lighting is different. It's a cooler lighting even, and the sea is
yeah.
usually much rougher this time of year too, so you get some
It is,
shots
yeah.
of the sea. If you go over and again, the first viewing area that's right across from the parking lot where you're kinda looking up the hill a bit towards the lighthouse and the visitor center and that, when the sea is really up there, the waves go up between that little gap, and I've gotten photos of waves in front of the lighthouse because the water would come up that high out of that little gap in the winter, and yeah, it's definitely worthwhile trip out there in the winter, especially if you can track it at a time when you know the seas are gonna be up a little bit.
Yeah. So I've been out there, like I said, a lot as well. It's probably one of my favorite places in the province, as I said during the last podcast, but
Mm.
I was out there and I got a sunrise. I got one shot, like I said, coming up, and I kinda got on one side, there's people makes the nuckshucks up on the rocks everywhere. So I kinda use that as kind of like a foreground element, and so I got
Yep.
the sun kinda coming through it, which is pretty cool, and one of those mornings where the purple in the sky was just wanna blow your mind sort of thing. So, I got one there on that shot, and like you said, the puddle in the water too, or
Yeah.
the little puddle that's there.
Yeah.
I find myself when I'm doing tours is that you park and you come around the corner and just kind of wait and hoping, and to see if there's gonna be water in there.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
I've done that many a time, just walked over first thing to see if there's any foxes around and then kinda looking down. "Oh, oh, is there
yeah,
water?" "Yeah, and there's water down there."
yeah.
We got a
It's
really cool shot this summer from of that lighthouse too. At the beginning of the year, they were doing some work on it. The radio tower that's in the front, they had taken that removed it, and they put up a new one. But I got shots from the Zodiac, from the water side, without that big radio tower in front of it, so you kinda got how it looked before modern times, and
yeah,
that was a really cool shot to get. That's a once in a lifetime thing because God knows when they're gonna take that tower down again, so it was nice to be out there and get it from that vantage point.
yeah. And they painted it last season too, so it got a lot of bright rids on it.
Yeah, no, it's a good looking spot, and it's just again, we're talking about the lighthouses, but just to draw to that spot in particular, and there's a puffin colony is right there behind the lighthouse, and again the foxes have been around quite frequently, and it's another spot where you can easily go and spend an afternoon or full morning and not even scratch the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what you can see up there. So.
Yeah, yeah,
But it is nice to have that lighthouse as a focal point, a point of reference.
yeah. Probably the most seen lighthouse when it comes to travel is the one that's in Fort Amherst there in the harbor in St. John's.
Yeah.
That one is a really cool lighthouse because of the location, but all the big major ships comes through there and, cruise ships and then is in, the major city of the Newfoundland, the province too, so it's really, real cool spot.
You got a super fantastic shot of that lighthouse with the iceberg behind it when, the iceberg came in there.
Thanks. Yeah, that was funny, because that season, I remember that I wanted to go get some pictures of icebergs. So I said, "Well, I'm going to Fogo Island, and I'm going there that way, and going around the coastline and take my time. Take 4 or 5 days, go on up the coast and look some icebergs, and just by myself doing my picture thing."
Yep.
And I left first, and I'm originally from Pools Island, so it's a 4-hour drive. So I left and I drove. I got home and said I spend there the night before I kept moving on my journey, and turned on the news, and only to see there was a lighthouse. I mean, there was an iceberg by the lighthouse in St. John's.
Right.
I was like,
Yep.
"Oh my god!" I lived 4 hours and it just showed up. You know what I mean? Like don't
Yeah.
know they're gonna pop up anywhere, anytime.
Right.
Perfect location. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Now do I continue on or do I go back to town?" So I went on, and fortunately enough that it still was there when I got back. Thank God.
Yeah,
But
that was a fan that's you should try to post that one on the podcast here too, Michael, because that's fantastic shot. And it
thanks.
goes
But
to show how you can use the lighthouse as as a extra feature, instead of just taking a picture of the iceberg and not having it grounded anywhere. Like, taking that iceberg or taking that lighthouse gives you a nice sense of scale as well. So, yeah, that's a really that's a shot I'm jealous of that one.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are like they got a picture of that, but as always, the Fairyland shot and stuff, I like it when it's blue hour, so you get the
Yeah,
contrast, and we talked about that already as well during one of our podcasts. But yeah, still, what that picture is probably still one of my favorite ones that
yeah.
I've ever done. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, it's
cool.
fantastic, and you're right, the lighting and everything is just it's yeah, it's just one of those home run shots. So, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, those are the cool ones when the iceberg shows up in the perfect spot.
Yeah,
Is that you couldn't ask for anything. It's a photographer's dream spot sort of thing.
yeah,
And just when it comes to taking pictures of that, just as a point of reference for more technical photography, the same with that one as the one up in Fairyland. If you saw that one on the website or whatever as well, is that when we shoot that, we shoot it with a longer lens. So it's a lot
mhm,
of compression.
yeah.
So it looks like the iceberg is really close to the subject in the foreground. So the lighthouse or the houses up in Fairyland, but really it's more of using a long telephoto lens, and then that kind of draws it together. It kind of looks like it's almost touching, but still it's quite a distance from the actual land.
So, just for my own, interest, where were you standing when you took that shot
So if you
beforehand?
go there, I went to the lower battery where the cannons are,
Right.
and when we do the tour, we bring people out there, and I shot quite a distance. I think I was shot at about 300 millimeters, I think it was. So it kind of compressed it a little bit. So it
Yeah.
was cool.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's a good, you know, it's a good lesson for photographers that you don't have to drive right up on top of where the iceberg is to get the good shots. Sometimes it pays to stay back a little
Yeah,
bit and frame it and get that, that those
yeah.
objects in the foreground. Because I found that a lot, that kind of straying off the lighthouse topic, but you see a lot of people posting pictures of icebergs, and it's just the iceberg in the water, and there's no, there's no frame of
Yeah.
reference there. There's no scaling. It's nice shot,
That's a
interesting
nice,
iceberg.
yeah,
Yeah,
iceberg.
but it's the iceberg. So, using a lighthouse as as a method of scaling how big the iceberg is, and that's very, it's a good tool to have in your box.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of tricks when it comes to using the camera of trying to get different shots and all that, and I find that's a good one for icebergs and stuff, but a lot of things as well if you wanna get things looking same as the moon. If you wants the moon look bigger and close to something, same thing,
Yeah.
right? Telephoto lens and all that jazz.
Before we leave the Bonavista Peninsula there, I just want to touch briefly on another lighthouse in that area down at Kings Point. Mhm. Kings Cove, not Kings Point, Kings Cove. It's a tall, slender white lighthouse, but it's at the end of a little trail, and there's quite often icebergs in that area as well. And I've gotten a couple of shots, not great, but showed me the potential for future shots of that lighthouse in the foreground and icebergs in the background there in the bay. So, and it's a nice little lighthouse anyway. It's a nice place to visit. Geology out there is absolutely mind blowing. So it's, again, there's always more than just a lighthouse when you go visit these places. There's more
Yeah,
things to see.
and that was a good one too when we're out in Zodiac, you see from the water, it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's high. It's high up. Like, you don't realize just how high up it is until you're down in the water looking up, and you're like, "Wow, that's way up there." Yeah.
I think they got some sea caves and under it too, or right close to it, if I remember right.
It does. Yep, yep.
Cool.
There's a sea cave almost directly under it, and there's a big, what we call it, bacon strip rocks. There's, just a layered rocks, and it looks like strips of bacon right beside it there as well. It's a really cool spot.
So another lighthouse that I photographed a few times, but I actually went and got another photograph of it probably about a month or so ago, is in Greenpoint, the one out in Puffin Island.
Yes.
You can't
Yep.
really get out there unless you go on a boat, and it's quite a distance away, but on the horizon, it's pretty cool. So I got a picture. There's a lot of rough seas, and there's a lot of rocks in the foreground, so there's a lot of movement in the water. So when you use, like, ND filter and get, long exposure. Well, I was there for sunrise, and I got the sun as well coming right out of the ocean,
Oh, very
which
nice.
was really cool. So I got the
Yeah.
lighthouse and the smooth water and the lighthouse and a lot of sun coming up. So it was one of those moments where it's like, "Yes."
All came together, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I took
that's
some. I was out to Greenpoint this summer. I took a couple of shots later, but bright day. It was just more so, and now I know where it is for the next time I go out, right? But yes, it is quite a ways off, and I guess you must have used telephoto on that one too, did you? When you
yeah, I think I only used a 70 to 200, I believe it
okay.
was, if that. And I flew my drone out there too because it was one of those really rough, savage sea days,
Yeah,
and so I flew my drone out. I didn't do anything with it either when it comes to editing, but I know I do have it. I looked at it, it's pretty cool, and I fly out and you see all the waves crashing up around the island. It's
very cool.
pretty cool.
That's a maybe a topic we can talk about some other time. Is tools in your tool bag, and like the drone has become like a, almost an invaluable, well, it is an invaluable tool, and that I take with me all the time now.
Right,
For those types of aerial shots, and again, for lighthouses, most of the drones nowadays have the automatic track where you center on the lighthouse and you tell it to do a circuit of the lighthouse, or even a flyaway of the lighthouse. And yeah, lighthouses make for really good subjects for drone footage as well.
right.
Absolutely.
That, well, like I said, that, is a new perspective that you wouldn't get unless you wanna run a helicopter,
Right.
and they're kinda more expensive than a drone, so
Strap onto a couple of seagulls or something.
Capture the beauty of wildlife, icebergs, and incredible landscapes through your own camera lens. With expert instruction, workshops, guided tours, and more, Newfoundland Photo Tours. Book your experience today.
so there's a lighthouse that I find that's really underrated, and it's probably not really well known, but for picture-wise, it's, like, wicked spot. and that's the one out there in Grave out that way. It's called
Yep.
Greenpoint Lighthouse, and it's not like a big old building, it's just like the lighthouse itself, but the location, you kinda look towards it, you got this nice colorful red and white lighthouse, and in the background, there's some rocks there in the back, so when the sea comes in, it kinda you can put on an ND filter there and kinda work magic, and then when the sun too kinda hits it at sunrise or sunset, it's a real cool spot. It's one of my favorite spots for sure.
Is that do you have to walk to that one at all? Is that a drivable one or
You can drive out pretty much all the way, and the walk is
yeah,
probably just, like, less than 5 say, yeah,
okay.
3 minutes maybe to get down to where you wanna be.
I've not done that one yet, but that's an easy one to do because it's relatively close as these things go, so
Yeah, I'm not sure if they plow the road in the wintertime. I think they do. I think they have to, but it's a real cool spot. I actually like to go out and get a shot in the winter. So I might
yeah.
have to pick a day trip to go out there and see if I get someone. Sometimes you get a picture of the lighthouse and you get like the ice and snow off them as well, which kind of adds
Yep.
to it.
Yeah, that's you make for a good point 'cause, we visit a lot of these, in our tours, especially we visit them in summer months, and,
Mm,
going out there and that's what I like about being so close to the Bonavista when I can get out there in the winter, and it's a completely different perspective, completely different,
yeah,
and
when you,
it would be nice to visit some of those other lighthouses in the winter.
uh,
There's one we're
when
gonna
you-
probably talk about in a bit that I wanna visit in the winter as well, because I got a feeling that one gets some pretty good spray and ice in the winter. That's
mm,
the one out at the Port Choix Point Rich Lighthouse.
yeah, that and the thing about it too is when you're out in the winter, your fingers is all cold and your nose is
Yep,
probably running because it's so cold. It's like
glasses are steaming up every time you look down.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, of course, as photographers, we do it because we enjoy it. Yeah,
Well, I know that's people say, "You're nuts going out doing this stuff." And, no, man, this is when this one is good.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead with the lighthouse you just mentioned there then.
Yeah, so on the West Coast, up just past Gulfsmore National Park, I spoke about it briefly in our landscape chat, and that's the lighthouse at Port Choix, and it's the rocks out there are all these I'm not a geologist, but I think they're volcanic type rocks. It's almost right on the rocks on the water. So I can only picture that in the winter when the sea is up, it must get a lot of spray. And it would be cool to see the ice, forming on the lighthouse, and that would make for a fantastic shot. Fantastic shot anyway. It's the sunset's in behind it, and it's right on the water, so the horizon goes on forever behind. It's a very
Mm,
nice location to shoot. It was a happy discovery. I had no idea it was out there. It was when I was, out on the West Coast, Grossmore, and I just like we often do as photographers, let's go for a drive and see what we can see. And when found it, and fell in love with it right away. And it was one of my favorite photos I took this past summer actually was of that lighthouse. So it's yeah, it's a really nice spot. But again, I'd like to see it in the winter just to see
mm.
how that changes the scene.
Be cool to get some picture of the caribou hopefully out there in the wintertime as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, absolutely. And I've seen pictures online of caribou right by the lighthouse because that's right where they are. And
yeah,
yeah, it's a magical spot.
yeah. So since we're over on this side of the province now, so Lobster Cove Head Lighthouse is a real nice one as well, I find.
Now that's right up, right? That's pretty
It's
much up.
there in Rocky Harbor,
Okay.
out on the point there.
Yep.
It's a picturesque, and that's a good building. I think that's more of a historic landmark now than, uh,
There's
but
a
it's still
functional
used.
lighthouse.
Yeah, and Rocky Harbor is known for they got the name from so many rocks in the harbor because it's
Right. Yeah.
for trying to navigate, you know what I mean? It just kind of rocks all over the place, so a lighthouse
It's an
definitely required
apt
there.
name, yeah. It's very rocky. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot of nice grass in the foreground too, so you get down low, and if the sun's coming in, it hits the top of the grass is really cool.
Yeah, when I was out there, there were a lot of clover flowers and everything, so, yeah, I got a lot of those in the foreground. There was almost like a heavy dew, so there was all these, like, sparkles, look like jewels on the grass. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
you're right,
cool.
really nice spot. If you try to walk around if you walk around the backside of that lighthouse, so and to try to get the towers, again, it's a fair drop down to the water behind that one too. A lot of these things are well, they're high up for a reason, but, yeah.
Yeah, and what else do we have in that side? Rose Blanche Lighthouse.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
a
bucket I haven't been. That's a bucket list for me. I'm gonna and I'm ticking that one off this fall or this summer. This 100% because that's right in my wheelhouse. I love the older heritage type structures, and that will be built of rock. It looks ancient, so that's a very very exciting one for me to be shooting.
so that one, yeah, it was almost like I said, Cabot Tower was all made of rocks basically, and
Yeah,
you kinda needed the rocks to be out there on the point like that and stuff, the rough seas and things. But I got some pictures of it on a good many years ago now, and it's a cool spot. It's quite a drive from St. John's, but it's definitely when you're out there, it's pretty worth it for sure.
yeah. So I'd suggest if anybody is coming to Newfoundland and they're coming off the ferry in Port take the opportunity to run out there when you get off the ferry. Like try to work that into your trip. 'Cause it's again, I've not been out there, but I've spoken to enough people who have been out there, and I've seen enough photos of it to know that it's 100% a worthwhile trip out there.
There's Point Amour Lighthouse on the way to Labrador, like if you're going to Battle Harbor. It's a it's a really tall one, and you could see it. Well, you could see the land anyway from the province, but it's a really nice lighthouse, and you could go there as well. When I was there was actually whales going back and forth, which is always a cool spot.
Is that a manned one now? Is that or is that automated?
Not 100% sure. I know there's a from Billings there.
Right.
I think it's a main one. I believe it is, but I'm not
That's why I was
100%
looking at
sure.
the photos of it. It looked like quite a number of outbuildings, so I was wondering if, it was manned or not, but
Yeah. I was up there one year when on the way back from Battle Harbor. It was in the evening, and there was quite a few mosquitoes around. So I had my fly net on in order to get out and take some pictures. It's not always
yeah.
like that, but that one particular evening, it
Yeah.
was, I call it.
Yeah, you get home in Lightroom and wonder what all those little black dots are in your in your photo, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of trying to get those black dots out of your pictures for sure.
That's the downside of Labrador, and it's probably one of the only downsides is that the bugs are the flies and the mosquitoes are quite thick.
Yeah. I usually find those only usually a certain time of the year when
Yeah.
in the season, usually around June as well, they kinda come out, but it's not like that all the time.
There's a there's a ton of iceberg or ton of iceberg, tons of lighthouses too that aren't accessible by foot too. There's one in particular on the, Bonavista Peninsula. There's a trail you can take out of, Port Union called, Murphy's Cove Trail. And about halfway through the trail, first time I took the trail, I said, I thought I walked all the way to Bonavista because the lighthouse is a clone, like an absolute photocopy of the lighthouse that's in Bonavista, and it's only accessible via helipad or by boat, and that's it. But and I know there's other islands around that are only accessible by boat or helicopter as well.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we only as we've been talking here now for the last, 40 minutes or so,
Only yeah,
is that, we only touched what we find some of the lighthouses that we have been that we find, nice for taking pictures and stuff,
right.
but we just have so many. If you wanted, like you said, a road trip some year, to go and visit and all would be pretty cool, but we do have a lot of lighthouses for photography opportunities for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah, it comes with being a marine province. You gotta have those safety things, lighthouses in place. So, but again, I can't stress enough just how interesting they are to shoot. And every single one of them has its own unique charm and its own unique photo that you can capture. It's not a if you've seen one, you've seen them all kind of thing. Every single one of them's different and offers something new.
Yeah. So if you had to pick, or, 2 or 3 lighthouses, which one would you pick, you say?
Well, Cape Bonavista, just because again, that's I know what you've got out there, and the opportunities for photography are just bango. The one I haven't been to, like Rose Blanche, just because it's so unique, being a stone structure. I really, 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 really can't wait to get out to that one.
Right.
And I gotta say the one at Port Choix, Point Rich, it's a new place to me. I've only shot it once, but it's got a lot of, possibility. Lots of like you said, lots of wildlife out there too. You get caribou out there, lots of foxes, you're right on the water. And, it's a new and interesting spot. It's probably not as visited and photographed as much as some of these other ones. So, yeah.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
For me, of course, I still like Fort Amherst, is just the location it is, and Of course, any lighthouse where an iceberg shows up next to it is my favorite lighthouse.
Right, exactly.
And the Cape Spear, like I said, is close, and I've been out there a million times with people,
Yeah.
but still, it's just, a really cool spot. So those 2 for sure, they're close to St. John's, and like you said, Bonavista, you can't go wrong with that whole area. It just as a photographer's dream, the island and going out there is similar for sure. But, yeah, so like I said, now we've been chatting there for a lot about lighthouses, and hopefully this give you some more information on when you come to Newfoundland when it comes to more photography opportunities. But Corey, if you just wanted to give a little spiel about where you can
Yeah.
find us on podcasts and stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and if you have any specific questions about lighthouses or places to go, you can look us up on the Newfoundland Photo Tours website or just reach out to us via the podcasts, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. But you can find us on wherever you get your favorite podcasts, Apple or Spotify, and of course we're uploaded to YouTube every week if you want to have a look at our ugly mugs while we talk as well. I heavily advise just going with the Spotify or the Apple and listen to it while you're driving. Michael's not bad looking, but I got a face made for radio, so
It's all good. But yeah, so like I said, thanks for joining us here again for episode number 6. Looking forward to getting into episode 7. We're still working on some possible guests for the next episode. But as always, as we sign off here from the rock, keep your eyes on the horizon and your heart in Newfoundland.
until next time.
Have a good one.